Welcome back to the news, everyone. I was scared this episode would be dry as hell, but thankfully, WoW's EP, Holly Longdale, posted an article. It's called More World of Warcraft Experiences to Come. And zooming out, the mood is rather mixed. Like, I'm loving Plunderstorm, but many people aren't. There is some really good Season 4 news, and there's also some surprisingly underwhelming Season 4 news. But behind the scenes, 1027 Darkheart does appear to be cooking. So, let's get stuck in and pay the lads' wages with today's sponsor. Where we're going to save money, be more secure, and enjoy more convenience, because that is what NordVPN.com/Bellular Warcraft gets you. And if you use my link, you will get 4 months for free on a 2-year plan based on their zero-risk 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, you probably know Nord for their VPN, but they actually have a suite of security and convenience tools. The core VPN, of course, lets you use the internet as if you are anywhere. And I do use Nord quite a bit myself. You can bypass regional restrictions and content, access streaming libraries of other countries, and my favorite, get yourself a bit of a deal by region hopping. That was very useful when I was flying to the States a few times last year. They've got apps on every major platform, which makes Nord super easy to use. And it's more than just a VPN. You'll also get Dark Web Monitor, which alerts you if your credentials have appeared in data leaks, and their threat protection tools. And they've even got more up their sleeve, like NordPass, their password manager, which, I mean, come on. Life with a password manager is just better without, because forgetting passwords kinda sucks. Anyway, if these things sound interesting to you, check out NordVPN.com/Bellular Warcraft. The link is down below in this video, and that's where you'll get 4 months for free on a 2-year plan, of course, backed by their 30-day money-back guarantee. The Holly post then. So, to me this actually looks like Holly reading the room and basically wanting to get something out there. You see, Plunderstorm is kind of specific appeal, you could say, like the PvP aspect is a total non-starter to loads of people, and I actually think that's had more of a negative impact than they maybe expected. That's because shortly after Plunderstorm dropped, both Holly and Associate Game Director Jeremy Fiesel were tweeting about there being more PvE stuff in the pipeline, so I think they know there was concerns, and this is them basically trying to get something out there official. Let's go to what Holly said then. So, quote, Dragonflight Season 4 is en route as testing begins in PTR, and we'll have more news to share soon on the next experiment we have up our sleeves. We can't wait to share with you the many things the team have been hard at work on. So, what could she mean? Well, there's a few things. As her post went live, a new build of patch 10.2.7 was pushed to WoW Dev 3. They use WoW Dev 3 for internal testing, and if this PvE experiment is anything like Plunderstorm, it won't be on PTR, but will have extensive internal playtesting. So I think it could be that. Now, as for the Vampire Survivors mode string that we found back in December in a test build, and then the Pandemonium feature of 10.2.7, well, what could these be? Could they be the same thing? Let's break it down. So, the full title of Pandemonium is Time Running Pandemonium, and that kind of suggested that it was a time-walking adjacent thing, which would make you think it's in the regular game. But we then had this, 10.2.5 Pandaria Time-Walking Season. This was a storyline that again appeared in a test build, but we didn't really know what it meant. I mean, could they somehow have retooled the Pandaria campaign and then maybe done something with gear and scaling to make it work? Like, they could have, but would that be fun? I'm not necessarily sure. But then, time running gear appeared, right? Look at these are time running boots that when you wear them give you a roll ability. Again, that almost makes me think of building a character in a roguelite. Right now though, we've got no idea what any of this stuff means, or if the Vampire Survivors thing is anything more than just a leftover of internal game jam like idea and data that somehow made it into the build. Now, looking at Plunderstorm, I mean, you can totally see how a Vampire Survivors mode could work, you know? Limited weapon choices, abilities, gear slots, gear that grants abilities, the action-based combat, that all does fit. And the idea of a PvE Vampire Survivors inspired mode with power progression and a renown track launched as a marketing beat and an experiment, that does actually match what they've just done with Plunderstorm. Kinda hard to know. Next then, I've got a quickie in the whole subscriber number story that I brought you last week. Okay, TLDR, Jonathan Haidt gave a talk at GDC. I looked at his slides, I then looked at a bunch of the old Activision Blizzard earning reports and public statements they had made. I basically meshed this stuff together and tried to come up with a number of what we could estimate current World of Warcraft subscribers to be. It was very interesting. At the time I basically said, this is a rough estimate, it's not true, I'm not claiming it's true, but there is the subscriber data from the official, well, subscriber trends, I should say, from their official slide, and that is the thing that we know is true. What got interesting, though, is Jez Corden of Windows Central then reached out to his sources. If you're not aware, he has plenty of sources at Activision Blizzard. He's posted a fair few leaks before that have turned out to be true. Now, he reached out to his sources, and his sources told him that my calculations were roughly accurate. So, I don't know if it's 8 million, I don't know if it's 6 million, I don't know how inaccurate, but, well, it's whatever roughly means. Again, the whole point there, though, was fragmentation, because yes, World of Warcraft is at Legion-like levels, and yes, that does appear to be in and around 7 million subscribers, but there's no way you'll feel that when you log in, because we're fragmented. There is Wrath Classic, which is obviously in a bit of a downturn right now, there's Season of Discovery, that's pretty damn big, and there is Modern. So what that means, WoW overall, pretty much on par with Legion. However, Modern WoW versus Legion, I mean, that's the more apples-to-apples comparison. Well, yeah, obviously, Modern WoW is it's likely very behind Legion, which in a way means that right now WoW is fairly healthy, but it does have a lot of room to grow, and that means that on the modern game, as much as Dragonflight has been good, obviously it is not the time for complacency. It is the time to go hard and to keep going hard and to earn those players back. Next then, Season 4, which I don't really think is poised to do that. The Season 4 talk does start with good news, though. So, the prospect of the original 8 Dragonflight dungeons surely did spook people, and I get why. I remember what those were like at launch. It was pretty rough, and I remember just how many hotfixes it took to get those in a decent state. Well, it turns out they're kind of cooking for Season 4. Unpopular abilities are gone, visuals are improved, and checkpoints have even been added. Well, a checkpoint. And to get a feel for that, let's just use the Halls of Infusion as an example. So take the Watcher fight, right? Titanic Fist now has a casting visual. Power Overload has a rim visual, and Power Field actually grows to its full size. On Kanjin, the Ice Boulders actually have rim visuals now, so it's more clear when you're playing. The Gale Slinger Trash no longer uses Wing Buffet or Thunderstorm. So essentially you can see they've just went and removed a bunch of annoying stuff, and they've tried to make the visuals more clear. Now, tallying it up across all of the dungeons, there are 17 removed abilities, there are 6 major visual clarity improvements, and beyond that, I think one of the larger changes is just that across the board, we are seeing many casts be less frequent. Many things do less damage, like the dwarves in Uldaman, their Fiery Surge has had its damage be halved. Sarka's Curse of the Dragon Horde has been reworked, the Burning Chains can now be used once, and they stun all enemies in them and make them take increased damage by 50%. So that's just an example. For another one, take Umbral Skull's Oppressive Miasma is gone in Mythic, the Vault timer is actually a minute longer, and for Halls of Infusion, they've added a checkpoint after the Frog Boss. Because man, that run back really sucked. As for the why, it's extremely clear, right? They have learned a lot of lessons over the last while, and those efforts have paid off. In this video that we published 2 days ago, you can basically see the Season 3 Mythic Plus numbers and how they dwarf what came before. And that's because of easier scaling, new gearing, rebalanced tuning, and just a lot of lessons actually being applied. And that's made it by far WoW's most successful Mythic Plus season in recent memory. So, the Season 4 dungeons do look promising enough, and of course Mythic 0 is essentially going to be an affixless Mythic 10 in terms of difficulty. Heroic is going to be the same as a current day Mythic 0, so because of that, I think we might see a bit of a participation increase. At the very least, it is testing what the new dungeon system for the War Within is going to be. That's pretty interesting, unlike the situation with raids where, man, people are not thrilled at all. So, there are currently no differences in the Season 4 raids other than item level. The season is called Awakened, but I don't really know what's waking up. We don't seem to have new mechanics, there don't seem to be any new twists. It's weird and it's strange compared to the love the dungeons are getting. Then the weekly rotation where basically each week one raid is scaled to the Awakened item level and drops Season 4 gear, well, that wasn't popular with Fated and it's returning. And that means you'll be progging a different raid every week, which is a pain in the ass. I mean, it's weird. Like, Shadowlands Fated wasn't amazing, but at least it was throwing in some new mechanics to try and spice up the bosses. But I don't know, man. It's weird. I think Blizzard just needs to get on this one and actually let people know what to expect. The frustration, of course, began on Twitter because that's where it's fastest to post, but of course it spilled into Twitch. There's videos like this one by Max and YouTube, and I think the community's just kind of thinking, blah, why? Now, for me, the rotation is fine. We'll just clear it in Heroic, but if you're, say, a Mythic Raider, oh, that weekly rotation is a pain in the ass. I'd say this, Blizzard, I think the obvious and good thing would be to add an old raid, right? And just have it always be active. I mean, imagine Antorus, Throne of Thunder, Nighthold, Blackrock Foundry, one of those old raid tiers that people thought was awesome. Like, if you just scale that up, I mean, people would think it would be really cool. It's just weird to see raiding get this treatment while dungeons, I mean, at least got a little more. But anyway, let's move on to the sort of thing that has changed, which is dinars and rewards. So if you don't know what they are, dinars were basically just a currency that Blizzard added in Season 4 of Shadowlands, and now we're getting a new version called Antique Bronze Bullions. So, these are in Season 4, they are earned presumably by doing raids, and they can be spent on bits of gear, with a bit of a twist. So each raid has got a vendor, but there's a fourth vendor who sells cosmetics. Here's how the system works. Items from the gear vendors cost 2 bullions, as does the Scale of Awakening, which will boost a legendary from Season 3 to Season 4. But then the cosmetic vendor, it sells weapon appearances at the cost of 1 bullion, as well as the Shadowlands Season 4 Slime Cat mount, which I didn't really expect, but I didn't get it back then, so I guess that's kind of useful. Now, there's no word on acquisition for these bullions, but the tooltip does say max stack 12. Of course, the Shadowlands dinars were limited, so we're kind of thinking you'll be able to get a total of 12 of them per character. And now I've got to be real, if I was Blizzard, I would probably try to make these a bit more repeatable, and I'd maybe put in a bind on account element so that people could try out new characters a bit faster. It just seems that's the healthy thing to do in the run-up to a new expansion. But anyway, gearing-wise, the Dinar gear has a new keyword, Awakened, and can be upgraded 12 times up to the Season 4 max item level of 535. These are done using Season 4 crests and flight stones. So just 12 upgrades. I mean, it's far more simple than our gear that currently, goes through Adventurer, Explorer, Veteran, Hero, all that stuff. But I don't think this is any sort of test for a simplification, because if regular gear was just fully upgradable, then you would find yourself as a heroic raider, say, doing a bunch of LFR just to try to get more shots at the loot table, and I think Blizzard knows that would be a humongous chore. Continuing on with changes then, we've got a new weekly quest called Last Hurrah. Basically, it gives you a crafting spark and a box of upgrade materials and a piece of normal mode gear. This rotates, and basically it seems to rotate with the zones associated with the current Awakened raid. And with that, I'm almost done. There's only a few more things you need to know for Season 4. So legendaries will drop. They will drop at the Season 4 item level, but as I said, if you already have a legendary, you can upgrade it to a Season 4 item level using bullions. And from there, you can then upgrade its item level using crests and flight stones. So no RNG in the upgrade is good, but so far there are no changes on the acquisition of the legendaries themselves. For other things, the end bosses do drop Omni tokens that can be turned into tier, and then there's a new seasonal mastery achievement that gives you an Awakened Mark of Mastery, which can be converted into a piece of heroic tier gear, and again, that is for doing either a full clear of any of the heroic Awakened raids, a Mythic Plus rating of 2000, or PvP rating of 1600. And as for what we think, well, big picture, bullions seem good, but the raids are definitely underwhelming. Dungeons are good, but not exciting. There's not a new big reason to go and play, but if you do want to play anyway, at least the game's reward systems will support that. There's also some Season 4 achievements. If you do each Awakened raid on normal, you'll get the Voyaging Wilderling. On Heroic, you'll get the Awakened title. Keystone Master gives you a infinite Dragonflight colored Armadon thing. And for Mythic, you'll unlock raid portals, which, is neat. I suppose you could use those if you're farming appearances in like 4 years' time or 3 years' time. Anyway, overall, Season 4, look, it's weak, but it's also not the full picture. 1027 also brings the Harbinger questline for Xalatath, Troll and Draenei Heritage Armor, and Pandemonium, which may or may not be the new PvE experiment. I mean, I think it might be, but by that time, we'll actually be well into the War Within's alpha, we'll almost be into the beta, that's according to the roadmap. So yeah, it's not a fresh raid tier, I do think it's underwhelming, but the other things are there. Whether they're value to you or not, though, will depend. Personally, for me, they're actually a good value proposition. I'm interested in those things. But if you're primarily a raider or primarily a Mythic Pluser, I mean, yeah, a full new season would be ideal, wouldn't it? Okay, what else? Let's destroy the rest of the news. Plunderstorm has seen some updates, which is big for Plunderstorm junkies like me. Abilities have been tuned, they have refined the reward design and enemy placement as well, with plunder drops increasing by 50% in solo matches and a higher mob density on the right-hand side of the map. A player called Solar Power has also reached world first 1 million plunder, which is a feat of strength achievement that you can go for, and also the Crater Crash is this weekend. I think it's actually the day this video goes live. Maybe with the Creator Clash done, we'll see them start to feel like they can promote the PvE thing. Kind of hard to know. Anyway, over in Season of Discovery, honestly, they're cooking pretty damn hard. I loved just watching their video. Basically, Phase 3 is bringing people to Sunken Temple. That looks pretty sick. And there's a new PvE event called Nightmare Incursions, and an Emerald Warden rep to go along with them. All pretty neat. Seems they'll be active at those Dream Portal sites, but again, since it's Season of Discovery, thankfully, we have no specifics. Finally then, the April trading post is just okay. There's a shark hat, that's neat, but once again, the completion reward is a pet. To me, that just kind of feels low value. That being said, the Plunderstorm tie-in is seeing loads of returning pirate-themed rewards, including the treasure chest back and the Dreadwake mount. Thing is, though, just those 2 rewards costs a combined 1,500 tender, which is more than what you get in a month. Unless, of course, you do the Plunderstorm Renown and get yourself another 750 tenders. But still, I think that, broadly speaking, that store is overpriced. To me, it just doesn't feel an amazing value. I think it's kind of losing their shine. They gotta do something to spice that up. But anyway, next, check out this video to learn about the wild things going on with Mythic Plus, and check back very soon on the channel for a big old lore video. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you later.